The Mix 88.5 Property Update, brought to you by the award-winning Tudor Group, developers of Tudor Villas and in the final stages of Tudor Court Condominium, Pratham Nak Soi 2. The Tudor Group, Thai lifestyle, European standards.
Welcome to the Mix 88.5 Property Update here at PMTV. Guest as always in the studio is from Salmons, Thailand, Tim Gladwin.
The Mix 88.5 Property Update.
So, good afternoon and welcome to our property update. As always, in the studio with us from Salmons, Thailand is Tim Gladwin. And if you want to get hold of Tim, the usual number for the office, 038 252 588, and find out anything we've talked about later on today, or indeed any of the programmes previous. As always, good afternoon, Tim. How are things?
Afternoon, Russell. Yeah, things are good, actually. It's been a nice, busy week.
Good.
Continuing the theme that we've talked about in recent weeks. As always, obviously things could be better, but particularly bearing in mind the ongoing problems in the world, as we've just had explained to us in some detail on the Business Daily. Bearing in mind that level of uncertainty and that lack of confidence, the market's doing exceptionally well. And, I guess myself and I can't imagine any other real estate brokers would ever complain about the market being as it is now. And if it continues on like this indefinitely, I think we'll all be very happy.
Okay, that's always nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's always, you always think things can do better, but equally, obviously we've had a 4 or 5 years that has been somewhat up and down, to say the least. And it's nice to have reached a period at which there's nice, steady business to be done. Seemingly every month at the moment, touch wood, because obviously things can always change. But no, from my own point of view, if things continued along like this, it would be great.
Okay, which is always nice. And from all intents and purposes, we are in the low season, which I don't really think we've said several times before. There's no real low season now anymore. It's more of a year-long thing as Pattaya, and it keeps on developing and getting better. Except there's one that we've got to have a quick whinge about the communication systems. Everything is down now. We managed to plan for this and say, right, we keep Cat Telecom and we'll get TOT to make sure that if one of them goes, we're never without internet and telephones. Unfortunately, both of them have gone, along with every TV service in the land, and there's nothing here. Apparently, the weather is still a little bit dicky and fried everything in our area.
Yeah, I must say, it's perhaps... ironically, I was speaking about this very thing to a developer friend of mine yesterday evening, and he was saying that part of the problem is that they simply don't earth the cables. And what he's done now, he bought a bunch of copper cables, and he's earthed all. He bought them for TOT or whoever it is provides his cables. They connected them up. Each cable cost him 250 baht. And they couldn't believe how easy it was. Their excuse why they didn't do it was because it was too expensive. But actually, it's not expensive at all. And I suspect that most people, including myself and probably yourself, particularly bearing in mind your current experience now, would be more than happy to pay 250, 500 baht, 1,000 baht, whatever it might be, if that meant that every time there's a rainstorm, you don't get electricity going off and the internet going down.
Yeah. It's the unfortunate thing is that we can do it in our buildings, as we've done here in this building and through the studios and the rest of it. But once you get to the outside world, they haven't bothered.
No, indeed. But if there's a surcharge for every customer of 500 baht, 1,000 baht, one off, and they spend that money on earthing everything, it would be a great relief to have a rainstorm when you're not worried about the electricity suddenly going off, which more often than not it does.
I do remember in years gone by before the cable TV invention type thing, you had that little satellite dish, which I believe is still down here for True rather than the cable, which it is in Bangkok. And every time it rains, you lose the signal because, the satellite can't see through the rain.
Yeah, I think it's heavy cloud covered seems to be a problem for it. We still have that problem occasionally, which, of course, when it's raining outside is one of the times when you would rather watch TV, perhaps. And that's always been my frustration. It's raining, I'll watch some TV. And, of course, if it's heavy rain with thick cloud cover, the True Vision tends to go off air.
Anyway, enough about technology and more into property. So it's been another good 7 days and everything's been ticking along. Are we back to everybody buying condos, or is it everybody buying, as we've looked at the last couple of weeks, the secondary market still going well? Is it just about, licorice all sorts? We'll have a go at everything.
Yeah, well, I think whenever you get a question like that, and obviously I get that question quite a lot. What are people buying? Who are buying? And it's always hard to give the kind of answer that the person posing the question is generally looking for, because in a nutshell, the diversity is so great that it's very hard to generalize. If you just look at the last 7 days, the kind of people we've been dealing with, a retired couple over from Europe looking for a retirement home, British property investor resident overseas, expat living and working in Bangkok looking for a weekend home down here. There's an expat living and working in Pattaya that we're working with at the moment who's looking for a home down here. A retiree who's already living here looking for a new home. European holidaymakers that we've been looking for a holiday home for. Chinese real estate investor we're looking at for a commercial investment, for American real estate investor looking for some condos for him. Russian family looking for a home, and Hong Kong expat that's looking for a holiday home here as well. So that's just some of the people we've been dealing with over the last 7 days, and obviously I made a note of them just because it always strikes me we deal with such a wide and diverse group of people. You can't just say, oh, we're dealing with Brits or the Americans are buying a lot. It really is an incredibly diverse market, both in terms of the people we deal with, but also in terms of what they're looking for. Obviously, there are times, as we've discussed in the past, where more and more people have been looking to buy off-plan condos, although we generally have not been one of the big players in that, because we tend to be very, very careful before we push people in that direction. We try to encourage them to look at all the options, and if they're going to do that, look predominantly at those developers that we've worked with in the past and who we believe are worthy of an investment buying off plan. But right now, there's a mix, a real mix. People buying houses that are already built, condos that are already built, others looking at off-plan developments. But like I say, as with the nature of the buyers themselves, what they're looking at is similarly diverse.
So we can't just say, well, whatever they're buying, I'll buy the same stuff, because they obviously know something that I don't. It's not going to work that way.
It really doesn't seem to work that way. Not for ourselves. I know, and again, we've discussed this before, some brokers, and particularly a lot of the new brokers in town, they focus predominantly on off-plan condo sales. They don't tend to spend much time or energy on the secondary market at all. And that's, obviously that's their business plan. Personally, I think that anyone looking for property here should look at both. Yeah. And, obviously there are some very good deals to be had. I've bought off-plan properties myself. There's nothing wrong with that as long as you buy the right property from the right developer. And it can be a profitable exercise to do that. But you do have to exercise care about who you're buying from and where you're buying. But at the same time, you've got to look at secondary market properties and see what they offer, how they compare, what kind of deals are on offer. Obviously, bearing in mind that the tough time we've had over the last few years, there are some deals that are exceptionally good. And obviously, every week here we look at a property, and it's very, very rare that I'm not able to come up with one. In many cases, I could come up with a number of very, very good deals that by any standard do represent fantastic value for money. So it's a good time to be a buyer, and if you've got the money in your pocket, you can come up with some fantastic deals. So to ignore that completely and focus exclusively on off-plan developments is, to my mind at least, a bad thing to do.
Yeah. Okay, which is good, because I actually did have an inquiry myself this week as well from a friend that used to work here, is now working in, I think it's Nigeria, somewhere in that sort of area with Shell, and coming up to retirement, and said, yep, okay, I'm going to move to Pattaya, I'm buying a house, I'm coming back there, because obviously the time that he spent here working for Shell was good, and this is where he wants to retire, so he's looking for a house as well. But I just wonder, on the off-the-plan, because there's so many people buying for investment rather than those people buying to, yes, that's the plan, I'm going to buy that for me, and I'm going to move in there when it's finished, or I'm going to use it as a holiday home when it's finished. I hear lots of people buying as investments to turn around very quickly. Do you think there's going to be a point where there's going to be a glut of those turnarounds on the market?
Well, people have been saying this for years, and it has never seemingly worked out that way. And I guess while the number of new arrivals in Thailand and Pattaya continues to grow, and while the demand for properties down here from Bangkok Thais and expats continues to grow as it has been, that's not going to be an issue. And like I say, it's something that people have been saying for as long as I can remember here.
Yeah.
Oh, they're building all this property. Well, who's going to buy them? Well, people have been buying them, and they've been buying them in great numbers. And I think while some look to buy and flip, equally, an awful lot buy, and it's either a holiday home, particularly at the lower end of the market, it's not a lot of money involved, and people, if they've got 20, 30, 40,000 pounds tied up in a property, which is a nice little holiday home for them,
Yeah.
in this day and age, particularly in the West, while it's tough economically, there's lots and lots of people who nevertheless have significant savings in the bank, and having 20, 30, 40,000 pounds tied up in a holiday home in Thailand is not a big deal for them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I hear that argument a lot, and I can understand why people say that, because there's an awful lot of property being built. But nevertheless, it like I say, people have been saying it for years, and it doesn't appear to have been an issue. Far from it, in fact, because the condos seem to sell in ever-increasing numbers.
Okay. Is that one of the things that in a couple of years' time we'll sort out the chaff, etc., and find out whether you did make the right purchase off your off-plan? You got, oh yes, that was one that has now become really popular, and I made a good decision there, and I've actually earned a few quid out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's an element of that. Obviously, when you're buying, there's a number of factors you look at. In a nutshell, you're saying, is the price that I'm paying for that unit in that location, in that development, the right price? Because everything sells if the price is right. I mean, some on occasions over the years, we've sold units that I wouldn't want to keep my dog in. But
I had a dog.
Yeah, too. Actually. But they sell at the right price. If the price is right, they will sell. There's a market for all kinds of properties.
Yeah.
But it's about buying at the right price. One of these, if someone who's looking to flip picks one of these units up at 300,000 and they can sell them for 500,000, 300,000 is a good buy, notwithstanding the fact that it's a potentially horrible unit to look at. So it's a combination of those factors. If you get them right, if you know the market well enough to know where the holes are in the market, and to know, you might be buying a piece of junk, but if you buy at the right price and the market for junk is at a higher level than at what you're buying, then obviously it's a good deal.
Okay, it's the old adage, isn't it? It's someone else's junk, etc.
Yeah, one man's junk is another man's treasure.
Yes.
Or something.
Just speaking of that and buying at the right price, looking at something completely different with Facebook going on the market beginning of this week, end of last week in the States, and everyone said, well, that was a little bit high. Well, possibly it was, and yes, it sort of realised it was a bit high once it came out there. But even then, those people that did buy at that high mark, if they sold it an hour later, and they'd still made a killing as well.
Yeah, I mean, markets are funny things, and there isn't the perfect market out there. Even the stock exchanges, which are designed to be nothing other than a simple market where people are stood there. Well, I guess they do it on computers nowadays, but they used to be stood there trading with one another. They're still not a perfect market. So even though those shares were in all likelihood overpriced on flotation, like you say, there was an initial surge because it's not a perfect market. Subsequently, I guess people's analysis of the company, the analysis of their money-making prospects going forward, the fact that, for example, a lot of the new businesses on mobile devices, and yet they haven't yet figured out how to make money from people on mobile devices. A bit of a problem, a bit of a hole in the business plan there. Obviously, the market's reacted to that, and over a slightly long period, it's not a perfect market, but it does react and go what is probably the right way. Because I find it hard to believe how such a young business can be worth more than some of the household name businesses that are generating huge profits and have been doing for tens of years.
Yes, I look at that and say, well, actually, if I did, I want to buy shares, I'd rather buy shares in Apple than Facebook, even though Facebook now is valued more and better. And I suppose that Mr. Zuckerberg, whenever it was, Friday, it was valued at 17 billion at one point, 19 billion at another, and back down to 17 billion. I don't suppose he really missed that extra $2 billion.
And I think he's down to 12 now.
Oh, well, he's probably still not bothered. Yeah. $12 billion is probably enough you could spend in,
although
several
with tech companies, of course, while it's a paper profit, and I don't know what the terms are of his shareholdings, but it's likely that he will be unable to actually sell any of them or most of them for a significant period of time. Obviously, with something like Facebook, they don't actually make anything.
Yeah.
And there is the potential for that business to become unfashionable and fold like a like a pack of cards. And
Well, basically become Yahoo.
well, it is.
Yeah.
It is. You know, except Yahoo's been a lot more successful on the stock market than Facebook. But you know, it is a risk. Obviously, more traditional people, perhaps like yourself and myself, at least Apple, they're making something. You know, there's a comfort with the fact that they actually make something. They sell something in the shops.
Yes, and once they sell it, they make a profit out of it. But I still don't understand how Facebook are making their money from it, and possibly Mr. Zuckerberg will be worth nothing and sitting on the street with a tin in a couple of years' time if he can't sell his shares.
Yeah, I think that's probably unlikely, but I think his net worth may suffer a little.
Well, in the meantime, he's enjoying himself. Okay, we haven't had a chance with that market done. We haven't had much chance this morning with not getting onto the internet, not getting anywhere outside of the world of Pattaya because of all the lines and the cables being down. No chance to have a look at the finances, so I'm guessing that the pound is still up there at the 50 mark or thereabouts. The euro still around about the 40 mark, and the US dollar still around about 31. No major changes. Nothing has happened significantly apart from we are seeing pictures of the drachma. Now, I've seen it in virtually every newspaper I've looked at now. There is a picture of the drachma. And I thought, yes, okay. Now, is that because you want to see what used to be or what could be coming? So I'm not quite sure what's going to happen there. As with the business early, I don't think they really know. Nobody knows.
No, I don't. It's very uncertain, and that's part of the problem right now. You know, certainty is what any kind of market demands, and when it's uncertain, it's a rough time for everyone.
Okay. Now, if Zuckerberg was coming over today and you were saying, right, the property of the week is this is a bargain, Mr. Facebook.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've had some exceptional properties listed over the course of last week. Some really good properties, a really good price, and some unusual ones. I mean, we've had an international standard golf course listed with us a few days ago in this area. It's also along with a big hotel development that's been started on there. Very, very interesting opportunity for someone. So, some very good properties. In terms of the property that I plumped for this week, it's a really very, very nice four-bath house in a gated community in East Pattaya. Really quite spacious and beautifully done inside. Really very, very attractive. Nice furniture, decoration, nice kitchen, lovely bathrooms. It's got a private pool in the garden. Again, the garden's very nice. Nice covered sitting area next to the pool. Nice sandstone decorative walls. And yeah, a really, really nice job. Big house, 4.99 million baht only, 35,000 baht per month to rent it.
All right, another good property of the week. If you want to know more about that, contact Tim directly. Contact the office at Solomons. The office number is 038-252-588 or pattaya@solomonsthailand.com. We'll see you same time, same place next week. As always, Tim, thanks.
Thanks, Josh.
That's it for another week. We'll see you same time, same place next week for another edition of the Mix 88.5 Property Update. Have a good one.
The Mix 88.5 Property Update, brought to you by the award-winning Tudor Group, developers of Tudor villas and in the final stages of Tudor Court Condominium, Pratam Nak Soi 2. The Tudor Group, Thai lifestyle, European standards.